This is meant to be a review of Midnight Mass, which is a Netflix original series television program. And I'm an Episcopal priest, and I was sort of riveted by it. It is basically in the horror genre. It starts out in a very innocent sort of way, terrible actually. The main character, one of the main characters, is a guy named Riley, who we come in on an accident, and he has been drunk, and he kills a woman with his car in Chicago. He's young, in his 20s, and so very shortly thereafter, 4 years pass. He's been in prison, and he comes home to his home island, which is called Crockett, and or Crockpot, as they call it. And he returns home to his fisherman family. It's an island. They're all fishermen. It's a small community, very kind of claustrophobic. Anyway, it was an interesting start to it anyway. It centers on, of all things, the Holy Eucharist, Holy Communion, the service of the table, whatever you might call it. I'm an Anglican, I'm an Episcopalian, so I am part of liturgical Christianity. Liturgical Christianity, the main ones are Roman Catholic, Anglican, which is the English version, Lutheran, Orthodox, Coptic. There are many others that are also, but as opposed to evangelical churches, which have a different liturgical arrangement. And what I mean by liturgy is what happens on Sunday, routinely. And routinely, in most of the liturgical churches, we have Holy Eucharist, the meal of bread and wine, body and blood of Christ. This is an interesting take about an old Monsignor who goes off on a trip in his 80s and comes back very youthfully, and he's been restored, and nobody recognizes him, and he's at St. Patrick's, and he's a pretty good preacher, actually. You'll enjoy that. You'll probably enjoy. There's lots of Neil Diamond and Cat Stevens music, and also very familiar kind of popular evangelical hymns like "Abide with Me," and those many of them in the background music. It's there's a lot of opportunities if you like to sing along with your TV programs. 4-part harmony is right there, waiting for you to just grab your part and go, and with familiar tunes. So the first 3 or 4 episodes are really pretty kind of standard, except for Riley and people getting to know people on the island. The sheriff is a Muslim, and there are some interesting wrinkles. There are ferries that bring people to the island, and so on and so forth. But anyway, the Monsignor goes off, and he goes to the Holy Land, and he gets lost. He's old, he's disoriented, he's about to die, and he apparently stumbles into a cave or a church, an old building that was covered up by the desert. And rather than dying, he meets what he thinks is an angel, and the angel basically sucks his blood, and then turns around and gives him his blood. And that blood makes him young. And so he brings that back, that youthful energy, and he brings the angel back too. Okay. The rest of the series, maybe from 4 or 5 on to the end of the series, which I think is 8 episodes, is pretty much a horror picture. Now, they do this very well, and Hamish Linklater, the main priest, is really very good. He was in Legion, and he's been in a lot of other things. And Riley himself was played by, oh darn, I can't remember his name, but he was on Friday Night Lights. He was the substitute quarterback, the real sweet kid who was taking care of his grandfather, and eventually went off to college. Friday Night Lights, great program, went on for about 4 seasons. Anyway, it's a good cast. It's a pretty interesting prospect. I have to say that as somebody who is a person who is a religious person, ordained priest, I was really sort of comfortable with the opening parts of it, and then I guess my real critique of it is it took literally the blood part of the Eucharist, the power of the blood. And so the blood of this angel, demon, whatever it is put in the Eucharist, is mixed in with the wine, and so people are healed, some of them, and it's miraculous in its own way. But it's also something that's being done to them. They aren't really being given a choice. And then there's a kind of midnight mass is a reference to the Easter Vigil, which is the central service of liturgical life. It's a long service on Saturday, right before Easter, Holy Saturday, part of Holy Week, and it's an amazing service, the best service of the year, really. But it's also obviously focused ultimately on resurrection, and the priest has been not resurrected so much as resuscitated. There is a big difference between resurrection and resuscitation. But what I want to say about my critique of it, and this is a theological critique, it's not so much that the theology is bad, but what they do is they take literally the idea that the blood of Christ is blood. And it is his blood mixed with the angel demon's blood. And so the people, the priest and the people helping him, are assuming that they're doing God's will. But there's a coercive element to it, so it, by definition, couldn't be God's will. One of the big problems that people have is that they take the metaphors literally. The literal metaphor of body and blood. Well, John's Gospel is central to what they quote in the as Bible quotes. There is an officious woman Every congregation has one. And she quotes Bible verses, and some of them are quite interesting. Anyway, her name is Bev, and she sort of drains the good out of really charitable acts that look like. She's very manipulative. And anyway, by taking literally the idea of blood as a restorative, I mean real blood as a restorative, it really perverts the central reality of the Eucharist. And it needs to be pointed out that using John's Gospel as a way of justifying this is really wrong, because John is very hard on the literalists. Nicodemus comes to him and he says to him, do I have to go back into the womb to be born again, or born from above? And Jesus says, you're a teacher of Israel and you're taking this literally and you don't know what you're saying. Well, Jesus didn't say literally, but John was pointing out that taking the metaphors and the analogies as literal is really, really a mistake. So, it is a horror show. It's well done, and it's well worth watching, I think, as long as you realize that the literal blood that is central to the story is a disgusting use of sacred texts and borders on blasphemy, certainly. But that's a religious judgment. But I'm making a judgment about the program itself, and the program is well done and well worth your time. Anyway, the Midnight Mass. Have a good day.